Hi, so welcome to the second in this little series about navigating conflict. The first one we were talking about an inner process, so what we can do within ourselves, regardless of whether we want to have a dialogue with someone else, whether we want to work through it with a group. Yeah, what can we do with ourselves? And today I wanted to talk about some thoughts about preparing for dialogue. So yeah, what can we do to get ready and figure out if we do want to step in and how? So before I start, I want to remind everyone again, we're really socialized in a right wrong paradigm, and we've been through school where we've been monitored, and a lot of us want to be good and do things the right way. So, yeah, if you notice that coming up in you, it's really useful to, as a start, to let that go and yeah, whatever you do, if you make mistakes, if you do something that doesn't work, like just how much love can you bring to that, compassion can you bring to yourself, and see what there is to learn. Just to really invite in that. Yeah, so the first thing I want to talk about is willingness and capacity. So I found this is really important in approaching conflict because some of us, especially maybe if we've gone through MVC or spiritual path or anything where we want to be kind of kind and heal divisions and yeah, come back together, there can be really a should around. Yeah, we don't not leaving conflict unresolved. So I find this really helpful, starting with ourselves and then also having holding this for the other people that we might want to be in dialogue with. So yeah, is there genuine willingness in us to be open to that other person and to do what it takes to stay in connection when it's difficult? And do we actually want to do this, or do we feel like it's a default, or that we have to? Um, and checking our capacity. So first of all, how we got capacity at this moment to hear them again, and we can also look at ways to increase our capacity, of course. So things from the inner process session that we did, but also just any other way that you have of building your capacity. Yeah, might be being outside, it might be being with friends, it might be meditation, creative practice, whatever it is that you do. Um, so yeah, that's the first thing to check in, and then the same for the other person. So if you're going to approach them, maybe you can check in with them. That they really want to step into this with you, and that they've got capacity as well. They're not coming from a should either. Yeah. So a couple more things I think are really worth checking in about before even thinking about the dialogue. And that's connection or correction. And yeah, this can be a sneaky one. So I think often there is part of us that genuinely wants to connect with that other person and wants to work through the divisions. But there can also be part of us that's hoping that maybe if we have a dialogue, we can change their mind. They can come around to our point of view. And sometimes that might happen. Something might happen, but it's very hard to trust and like build a connection when you feel that someone's trying to correct. So it's worth spending some time just asking yourself that. So is there a part of me that wants to correct them, wants to educate them? And does that part need some empathy first? Like what else can support that part than needing to get it from the other person? Yeah, and it might come up in the dialogue as well. So it might be something that you want to practice. So what situations might come up in this dialogue where I'd really try and correct them? And yeah, and giving that part lots of love and empathy and finding out what it really needs, some time to listen to that part of you. And I think with all of this, a big thing I'd really encourage for preparing for dialogue is to role play. So with a friend, if you have one, or an empathy buddy, but also if you don't, then there's ways you can do that through, for example, having two chairs and you move between playing your part and the other person's part, or even doing it in a journaling way. But it's, yeah, even better if you've got someone that you can do it with. And and noticing those times where you slip into really wanting to be right and wanting to correct, and that becoming more important than connecting. And I want to normalize that. Yeah, it's like really natural, because parts of us want to protect, we want to protect ourselves. And one way we try and protect ourselves is by getting the other person to agree with us, and and then there's no threat. So yeah, it's going to come up, so it's worth practicing beforehand. And on a similar vein to that, I want to introduce one last concept, distinction. And again, it might be something you're familiar with, but it's worth thinking about again, is intention and impact. This is such a common way that conflicts come up and play out. And what's actually happening is there's quite a big gap between the intention of someone's actions and the way it landed, the way it impacted the person. And often when we're trying to resolve what happened, the person who's been impacted is really feeling the impact and feeling the pain. And when they try and express that and come back, the person who did the action is not really able to hear that, because they're remembering, but I did it I did it for these good reasons, and I did it for there's something about why I did it that you're not understanding. And I always have this image in mind of, I've got a little picture somewhere, but it's somewhere where you've accidentally run over someone's foot with your car, and that person's saying, ouch, my foot, like my foot's in pain. And the person driving saying, like, I didn't see you, or I didn't mean to, or they're really focusing on that they're a good person, and they're not able to hear. So I feel like part of preparing for dialogue is to have enough empathy for yourself and enough sense of that you're okay, and that intention's being heard by yourself, that you're more able to be with the impact on that person. Like, so especially if you're in a situation where maybe it was something that you did has impacted that person, and then the conflicts come from there. Can you build up enough capacity that you can stay with the impact until there's trust back again and there's some connection back? And then you might try and choose to go back to, your intention, and maybe they've got a different story. And the other way around it as well. So you might have been really impacted by something someone did, and when you try and express that impact, they go into what their intention was, and that can be like really painful. So at least understanding that that's something that can be happening, and it could be something you're able to name in the moment, to say, I'm really wanting you to hear this impact, and I will come back to your intention, or maybe you're able to go with their intention. But knowing that something can happen can be really helpful. So you're remembering intention and impact. And because this is a video rather than a live session, it's a bit tricky to demo like a role play. So one thing that you can do for yourself to prepare if you are on your own until you've got someone to role play with is an exercise that you might well know in another context, and that's sort of this 4 ways to hear idea, which is often used in NVC spaces. And the idea is that you're going to go into a situation, and the first step you can think of is, what are the things that they're likely to say that's most going to trigger you, that's most going to take you out of capacity and stop you being able to hear, that when they say it is going to bring up like lots of feelings and maybe flood your system and make it impossible for you to hear. And that's really the sense of preparing for dialogue. There's things around being clear what you want to express, which we can go into in another video. But I think a core part of it is like, how can I get ready to have more capacity when I'm in the situation where I'm going to get triggered? And that's the part you can do that would really help. Hopefully they might do it too, but at least you can control your part and increase that capacity between you. So with 4 ways to hear, the first part is to think of a statement that they're likely to say that would bring up a lot in you and trigger you. And you're going to try and hear that in 4 different ways. And again, no right or wrong, but just showing you that there's choice there. And in the moment, you might remember that if you've practiced it. So the first way, so you can repeat the statement to yourself, and you can do this with journaling, or you can just do it out loud or in your mind. You're going to hear the statement, and the first thing you can do is let yourself really judge them. So like thoughts can come up, and the thoughts might be like all your stories about them. So just writing or thinking or saying out loud, when you hear that statement, what are the judgments that come up about them? Then the next part you're going to do, same statement, and then you are going to say or write all the judgments that come, you tell about yourself, all the like critical things you say about yourself when you hear that statement. So all the like blame and shame you might be putting on yourself when you hear that. Then the next way of hearing is to hearing that statement again. What's going on for you? So tuning more into your body, into your sensations and feelings, and like when I hear that, how can I connect to my heart? So what am I feeling? Is there anger there? Is there fear? Is there sadness? Shock? And if you can feel under that, like what really matters to you about that? What are you needing that isn't being met? What comes up? So can you hear that statement and drop underneath the thoughts and find what's going on for you, what's really mattering to you? And then the final way of hearing, the final part, is that same statement, hearing that same statement. And if you can, just tune into what you think might be going on for them. So this part will always be a guess, but it's surprising how close we can be and how much it can help bring us capacity and bring us to our hearts and into connection. Guessing what they might be feeling when they say that, what might be under the words, what they might be feeling, and what might their needs be, what might really matter to them. That's underneath that. So I hope that might help a little. First of all, just already being prepared with some statements, some things that might be said that you think might trigger you, and already having a bit of preparation done, and remembering in that moment that there's something they're saying and it does bring reactions, but also you can still connect to yourself and maybe even to them underneath in the moment. So I hope something in there was helpful, and thinking about doing a few more of these videos, maybe one a bit on expressing a way that's more likely to be heard, and maybe a little more about formats of dialogue and structure, things that can help. But if you've got any requests as well, I'd love to hear them, and if there's anything useful or you have questions, please let me know or post in the comments. Wishing you really well for now.